Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Orion Minerals Managing Director and CEO, Errol Smart. Errol, very good to speak with you this morning. And you've secured 2 prospecting rights over the Greater Flat Mines area, so expanding your position around the Okiep Copper Project.
Hi, yes, Stephen, good to speak to you and Proactive again. And yeah, it's obviously very exciting for us. This is a very important set of prospecting rights. It's an extremely prospective ground. We've been working for 3 years already to get these rights granted and transferred to Orion.
So tell us more about the rights and the potential you're seeing there, Errol.
All right, Stephen, so maybe I'll just put up a couple of slides that will illustrate it very nicely. So this is the map of South Africa with our 2 big project areas. So on the right, we've got the Prieska copper zinc mine and the Ariaga prospect area, with a bankable feasibility study that's nearing completion. And over to the west, 450 kilometers to the west, we've got our second project area in the Okiep Copper District. Both of these have got bankable feasibility studies that are imminent. So they are literally in the final stages of drafting and are busy being handed over to independent experts for review. So it's very imminent for development. At Prieska, we've actually carried out trial mining already, and we've got a fully established site. At Okiep, we're a little bit earlier in the development stage. But Okiep is something that we've been working on since 2021. The district at Okiep is incredibly important. You know, it's produced more than 2 million tons of copper historically, and that's over about 360 years of European history. Before that, it was producing by the indigenous communities. But during that time, it's produced about 2 million tons just in the modern era since the 1940s, when the district was originally consolidated by Newmont. It's produced over 1.5 million tons of copper. Now, we managed to consolidate about 75% of the district. And we have been going through a methodical process of going through the historical Newmont and the company or the district, the company that operated was called the Okiep Copper Company, originally owned by Newmont and then sold to Gold Fields. And Gold Fields were the last ones to do any exploration in the early 1980s. And we've been going through the Newmont and Gold Fields exploration data, where there's an enormous archive of data. And in the latter stages of Gold Fields' ownership of the project, they still had what they called 50 million tons of reserves on the properties that we now own. Now, that was before JORC compliance, before 43-101, before SAMREC code. So these are not JORC compliant resources, but we've been going through this data and we see this as 50 million tons of drill delineated mineralization. We tested about 10% of that, and 11.5 million tons at 1.4% has been shown to be in JORC compliance. That is the stuff that we're busy doing a bankable feasibility study on, and it's this dark red patch in the center of our ownership area. So just putting this into context, the district has got literally thousands of mineralized intrusives, of which only 25 of them have been commercial mines in modern history since the 1940s. Let's call it that. In this cluster in the center here, so you see the area that we have our mining right, the dark red, and the area that we've just been granted the prospecting rights for, and they've been under a long-term application. We were assured that we'd get them, but it's a long administrative process in South Africa, and it's a very frustrating administrative process. It's only just come to a conclusion, and we have now got the prospecting rights to the surrounding area so we can physically go on the ground. So we've had all this fantastic data, but we haven't been able to go on the ground. The importance of it is, if you look at this map and you look at the colored blotches on the map, the clusters of red circles, that's where the bigger deposits are. And those bigger deposits, and this is in terms of the Newmont and Okiep data, of those deposits, you've got around the town of Nababib, which I'm pointing to over here, you've got about 15 deposits within 7-kilometer radius of the town of Nababib, where Newmont and Gold Fields had their central concentrator plant. We're going to build a new central concentrator plant in the center of our mining right area here, and we intend also exploiting all of these deposits. Now, what's the style of mineralization here? These are intrusive mafic bodies that bring the copper in with them. So you've got very liquid, very high temperature, molten lava essentially coming up from the mantle and squeezing in through every little fracture and finding any little hole and filling it. That's why you've got literally thousands of mineralized bodies here, many of which have been tested and not mined. And those are the big opportunity. Now, these things always form in clusters. They also follow the structural trends. And, you know, historically, prospectors will always say to you, the best place to find a major deposit is in the shadow of an old mine frame. Well, this is a case of being in the shadow of the old mine frame. In fact, in the shadow of the old smelter, which is a national monument here at Nababib, is all of our prime prospecting ground. So we are tremendously excited about, within the next 2 months, having a feasibility study announced for the central area that justifies putting up a new central processing plant, and importantly, a new tailings facility, which is being built to international tailings standards. And we expect to get the final permitting of that, you know, within weeks. And that will be our final phase of permitting, and then we will have a fully permitted mine surrounded by prospecting rights, which we've shown at OKIP. We got prospecting rights granted and then incorporated into our mine plan within 12 months, and both of those are mining rights. So we could very rapidly advance these prospecting rights to mining rights and incorporate them into the life of mine plan. And these are fantastic opportunities for rapid appreciation of resources and reserves.
And it looks like you've hit the ground running, Errol, because you're immediately mobilizing a ground geophysics crew and also deploying drill rigs to these targets, aren't you?
Yeah, look, we've been working on the mining rights very intently over the last couple of months. In fact, just over 6 weeks ago, we announced one of the highest grade wide intersections drilled anywhere in the world. We drilled 50 meters at 5% copper, just here where I'm pointing to at Flat Mine East. Since then, we've drilled numerous intersections at over 20 meters at 4 or 5%, both here at Flat Mine South and Flat Mine North. So this is infill drilling that we've been doing on our mining rights. We've got 3 drilling rigs here at the moment. We have been mobilizing geophysics, ground geophysics crews, who are all starting to arrive next week. So we immediately are now stepping out and actually moving into this light red area where we've had numerous targets. We've been burning to get on the ground and start doing something, and we've been frustrated because of the licensing procedure in South Africa. You know, in South Africa, we've got one of the most frustrating licensing regulatory management systems in the world. We don't even have an active mining cadastre system yet. It is currently being instituted by the Department of Minerals and Energy. So we feel that this is imminent now. We're getting on the ground, and we believe that we're going to be drilling similar intersections to what we have over the last few months on multiple other targets surrounding these. It's not unknown mineralization. This is stuff where Gold Fields and Newmont have already drilled.
Well, Errol, I hope you'll keep us posted on any progress you make there. Thank you very much for the update today.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Look forward to chatting again.
That's Orion Minerals Managing Director and CEO, Errol Smart.